Economics has three definitions. The first one is, well, it's from a Greek language origin. And in Greek, it means one who manages a household. And so the modern definition is the study of how a society distributes its scarce resources. So whether it's through buying and selling or through sharing. And remember, it's not just about money. It's about finding the middle point so that you can get as much as you can. So that would be an economic decision. It's choices, like studying instead of going to the pool, or exercising instead of playing video games. Let's think back to the caveman times or the hunter-gatherer times. So humans have been around for almost 300,000 years. And so in that time, we've been mostly violence-driven because there's a very limited resources. It's very hard to find food. If one family has food, if my family doesn't have food, what would I do to the other family? The other family wants all the food for themselves. So I'm guessing that they won't hand it over. Remember, our past has been mostly violence driven.
I murder the family and steal and take all the food.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And so if you were doing it, then what would everybody else be doing it if it was good for you?
Do the same thing?
Exactly. They would all do the same thing. That's why people banded into tribes, which were basically made of people like them who would cooperate each other and defend against enemies who want to attack them. Because if there's more people, the more powerful you or your family or your tribe is. They made tribes because they were afraid of other people who might hurt them. Back then, violence is equal to power because that's what people usually did in order to gain resources. And then so their selfishness drove into violence because if you're selfish, you wouldn't share any food. So if you didn't share any food, there would be more food for you. So if there was more food for you, that means you were most likely to survive. So that's what everybody wanted to do back then. So this puts us into the free market system. The free market system, or abbreviated to FMS, is a thinking process driven by money. The free market system is categorized by getting money or getting profit through business or trade. Companies that give their customers what they want will prosper or get money. So the government is almost never involved. So let's go on. There's communism. Everybody here has probably heard of communism, whether it's in the news or comes up during politics. So communism is the most popular alternative to the free market system. So it's all about nobody owns anything 100%. Everybody gets paid the same and the government controls everything from prices to like how much you have to learn. So it has never really worked before, even though many people would tell you otherwise. Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto about the Soviet Union. It's basically about how communism works. Basically, all these three things are summed up in there. In communism, can anybody guess why it has never worked before? Because they manage everything. They couldn't do all of it, like how much money this person gets, how much money the farmers get, how much money they have to pay the teachers, how much money cars are, how much money people have to pay for meat. They had to control all of that, and well, there's not many people who actually are in the government. They don't have enough to control everything. Well, it wasn't fair because people who did one thing and people who did another thing got the same thing. And well, all two of those things that I mentioned contributed to the downfall of the Soviet Union, but I teach economics, not history. And the reason why communism has never worked is because there's too much to manage and that people are different. People can't be the same. So is there any questions?
I mean, China's economy is the biggest in the world.
China's economy is the biggest in the world. They're not necessarily communist though.
Yeah, they call it communism with Chinese aspects, which basically means they kind of lessen the communism-ism.
Yeah, exactly. The word communist in China isn't really a economic system. It's more of a political party. We have homework.
Mhm.
You just have to find 5 examples of economic decisions that you made throughout the week. Hello, everybody. It's time to start the class now. Let's start with last week's homework. Think of 3 examples of equity and 3 examples of efficiency that you see throughout this week. Equity and efficiency are either you give everybody equal stuff or you only give the best people stuff. Equity and efficiency are how a society distributes its resources.
What about school? Like
School,
the teacher, it's
that's a great
education.
example. Good job. So yeah, because everybody gets to go to school, right? So that would be an example of equity. So can anybody give me examples of efficiency?
Multitasking.
How would that be giving the best people the best stuff?
I don't know.
Here, try, remember, a soccer team. Because the soccer team only wants the best people. Because if they let everybody go into the soccer team, what would happen to their performance?
Then the bad people would go,
Uh-huh.
and then they would do really bad.
Yeah, and how would that affect their team?
Because if a better team, then all of the good players will go, and they will do better than if
Yeah.
all the bad players go first.
Go ahead.
Any society like banks, markets, like banks and markets, they only want, and lawyers, they only want the best lawyers to show them, and also teams, they want the best players.
And what would those be examples of?
Efficiency.
Yep. Next. So incentives matter. Do you guys know what incentives are?
A thing that motivates or encourages one to do something.
Did you look that up? Because that's exactly right. How does it do that? How do you think it does that?
Incentive matters sometimes lead to scamming, right? Because you want something, but it's actually a fake, and you trade something good for it.
Well, and incentives is a thing that motivates or encourages one to do something.
So if someone says, I have a Lamborghini, want to ride it, and you just went with them and they kidnap you.
Well, how would that be something that motivates or encourages something to do something?
They said that they had a Lamborghini and would give it to you. So it encourages you to go.
Exactly. So the Lamborghini, in this case, is the incentive. Because everybody wants a Lamborghini. Well, almost everybody wants a Lamborghini because they're really good. And they're big flashy cars. Anybody else?
Free money.
How would that be an incentive?
So I say, say Mr. Beast or someone goes like free burgers or something, and you'd obviously go because it's free, you know, and like.
Yeah, because, well, the incentive could be the free money, or the incentive could be Mr. Beast because he's famous and you know that you're not going to get scammed. Or maybe you will get scammed if it's not Mr. Beast. But yeah, good job. So it either increases or decreases the opportunity cost of a choice. So do you think that seatbelts and other car safety devices make the number of driver deaths increase or decrease? Think about it. Really? Explain your thinking.
I think yes, cause like say like airbags or whatever.
Yeah, airbags and airbags. Well, all of them.
Cause like say when
All
you
that
get
stuff.
in a car crash,
Uh-huh.
and so like airbags basically do like so. Remember when you get a crash, the force makes you like collide into like something hard, which might kill
Well,
you.
actually, yeah, if you didn't have a seatbelt and you were sitting in the front seat, you would go flying out the window.
Yeah, but airbags prevent it. So
Airbags prevent that, yes.
So, yeah.
So, does anybody think that it would make them more? And why? This is a very tricky question.
Maybe like the seatbelts could like choke you or something.
Yeah, it's another good one.
Maybe like because the drivers know their safety devices, so then they drive like more carelessly, and then
That was the answer I was looking for. Good job. Well, if the seatbelts prevent deaths and the seatbelts make people drive more recklessly, actually, it stays the same. Did you not? So with seatbelts, there are more crashes, but less percent of the drivers dying. Without seatbelts, there are less crashes, but more percent of driver deaths. Think about it. What would happen if a spearhead were on the steering wheel of every car? Like whenever you crashed into somebody, the spearhead would stab you in the heart. Do you think more people would drive recklessly or not recklessly?
Not recklessly, because it's kind of like a death threat,
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
So,
maybe they should like add something like to make like a warning sign on top, so every time you drive you have to drive under the speed. And they might also as well add something like, I don't know, like something that you wouldn't want to touch, so that you'll drive not recklessly.
Yeah, they have that already. They're like road cones, I think that's what they're called.
I think like, can't they just replace the steering wheel, like the spearhead?
I guess they could, but how would you turn a spearhead? I like how you guys are talking a lot. So in the seatbelt example, how does the incentive of a seatbelt increase or decrease the opportunity cost of driving recklessly?
It increases it because it increases drivers driving more recklessly, because now that seatbelts, well, we don't need to care about car. We don't really need to care about if we're dying. Only the car. If we're driving a Lamborghini, you might as well pay more attention. But if you drive like an old car, then you won't be paying more attention.
That is true, but can you phrase it in which cost does it increase or decrease? Like the cost of something goes up or the cost of something goes down.
The cost of probably people want more seatbelts, so the cost of seatbelts go up.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be money cost.
Oh,
like risk.
Then people will drive more recklessly.
Why?
And yeah, because they have seatbelts and
and what did they do? What did they do?
They make the driver drive recklessly.
So you have opportunity cost, right? So what are the two choices in this scenario for driving? Oh, it's driving safely and driving recklessly. So you can either choose one of them. And so basically the seatbelt, it makes it more difficult for you to die if you crash. So the cost of crashing is going to be lower. Get it? But without seatbelts, it's more likely for you to die. So if you crash, then it's going to be more expensive for you to basically to crash, right? The seatbelt decreases the cost of crashing. Crashing, so driving recklessly does not have the same risk as it does without a seatbelt. However, there were many more pedestrians hit because they weren't protected from the driver's reckless driving. So in economics, there is no solution without a cost. So consider this picture. Your car is out of control and there is a grandparent and a baby in front of the car. And yeah, you cannot go off the road. It's a very bad situation to be in. But what would you do?
Run into the grandparent
Why would you run into the grandparent?
because the grandparent is about to die.
Well, that is true. But why not the baby? The
Because
baby
the
might die as well.
because the baby will most likely live a longer life.
Exactly. Oh, sorry. Most people would protect the baby instead of the old person because the baby has more potential. This is something due to our evolutionary sense, because the baby is the future and the old person's potential is past. Can anybody give me an example of something like this?
In a book I read, it's like there's a railway track and it's
Uh-huh.
a one-lane track.
Oh yeah, that
and-
one.
Yeah.
The trolley
And
problem?
there's a switch you can pull it. It's going to run into 5 people, but you can pull it to run into 1 people.
Uh-huh.
Is that the trolley problem or something?
Yeah, that's the trolley problem. Exactly.
I'd probably do 1 person because more people live.
Well, there's another example. So there's a guy. He's had a massive heart attack. He's got a big family. His family's all crying. And so this guy walks in, he's got a healthy heart. And so the family's like, yeah, I'll pay you 80, 100 million. Wait, hold on, that doesn't make sense. $80 billion for you to cut out that guy's heart and put it in the dying grandpa. And so the guy has no idea what's going on. He's just walking in. It's an annual physical checkup. So what would you do if you're the doctor?
I don't know, like, do you mean like 5 people with burning hearts or just 1?
Oh, yeah, just only 1 person. That guy had a big heart attack. He's about to die if he doesn't have a good heart.
Do I know that guy?
You don't know the guy who walked in, but you do know the guy who had the heart attack.
Like, are we close friends?
Yeah, pretty much.
Then hell yeah.
All right, well, that's a little bit too much enthusiasm for a illegal
Okay.
organ transfer, but okay. So let's talk about the production function. Has anybody heard of it? No? Nobody? So the production function relates physical output of a product process to physical inputs or factors of production. So can anybody put this in their own words? It's okay if you guys can't. This is a pretty advanced concept. So basically it looks a little bit like this graph over here. So you see how the curve is like a little bit out of a circle? That's the production function. And we'll explain how the shape affects what it is. So imagine you have been hired to pick apples from a giant grove of apple trees. And they're all like 5 feet tall, like really, really tall. So basically he says, okay, you work for an hour and I'll pay you $1 every apple you get. So what would you do?
I will pick a lot of apples.
Are you gonna climb up a tree and pick all the apples?
No, I'm just gonna pick the apples near the floor.
Exactly. And so that's where we get this line. basically, this is the first hour. This is an hour. And so this is the amount of apples that you pick, right? So an hour is up and you have picked all the apples from the bottom. And then the guy says, I'll give you one more hour. And I'll let you have this ladder as well. So what do you do?
Climb the middle area of the tree.
Exactly. And so we get this. This is another hour. And so this is the amount of apples that you get. Notice how this part is much smaller than this part down there. And why do you think that is?
Well, because when you like pick apples from branches, and then like you're just less apples to pick.
Well, also because you're running around with a ladder. You have to prop the ladder up, right?
And you're tired?
And you get tired, exactly. I even forgot about that, thank you. And so then the guy says, I'll give you one more hour and then we're done for the day. I'll lend you an even bigger ladder. You can go pick all the rest of the apples. And so we get this line. You see how basically the distances between the bottoms are basically like not changing. They're going up at the same amount. But look over here at the left side. You see how it's like not at all changed all that much?
You mean linear?
Yeah. Well, this is linear, and this is not linear. It's, I'd say, exponential decay. So basically not increasing nor staying the same. So again, this is because you're taking the ladder, you're running around. It's an even bigger ladder. You're basically dragging it on the ground. You're getting really, really tired. So imagine that. So this leads us into the law of diminishing returns. In economics, the law of diminishing returns is the decrease in the output of a production process as the amount of a single factor of production, usually time, is increased. One example is being tired after doing one task for very long. Can anybody put the first paragraph into their own words? If you keep doing something for a very long time, it will become more and more inefficient. Like, which one do you think is better? Studying for half an hour for a month, or studying for like 12 hours a day on one day, the day before the test? Which one do you think would be better?
The month.
The month? Why?
No, I mean the 12 hours.
Why do you think the 12 hours? That's interesting.
Because it's easier to remember.
Remember, you're literally studying for 12 hours. Well, for 12 hours, it's going to be very, very, very bad.
The month option better because like you get to study 15 hours instead of 12.
Yeah. So if you're studying for 15 hours, you're going like, why can't I learn this information? I hate the teacher. I hate math. I hate school. Stuff like that, you know. It's not going to...
I'll probably watch YouTube.
Exactly. Like, you won't get stuff done. But if you do 30 minutes an hour, that's manageable. And you won't get tired. See, this is not being tired after doing one task for very long. So from the apple tree example, you would always pick the easiest fruits first. And then you have to go get a ladder to get more apples after the bottom layer was all gone. Can anybody give me any examples of the law of diminishing returns? Either ones that you've done before, seen before, or you just make one up.
I think that maybe running is the same. You could run like for 1 minute and you wouldn't be tired, but if you run for like an hour, you'd be so tired.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct.
Okay, so maybe you could be selling for maybe 20 minutes a day instead of selling for 24 hours or something.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, that's a good example as well. One more example. Come on, guys, we can do it.
Maybe like maybe just swimming.
Swimming, yeah, same thing as running, or any type of physical exercise.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but you could also
Or mental exercise like doing math or studying. Or working.
Yeah, I find that very tiring.
It is very tiring. Or practicing a musical instrument. Or writing a book. Or just doing anything. Even playing video games. You get tired after that. So your homework is think of 1 to 2 more examples of the law of diminishing returns. They can either be ones that you saw or ones that you made up. Be prepared to share one of your examples. All right.
Yeah.